As you all know, I mean, there's very little that rises to my level of passion more than when it comes to our kids. We've got a whole bunch of them at the Haynie house, and we care a great deal, as I'm sure you do, about the next generation. And it seems like there have been, shall we just say politely, conflicting visions about what's best for our kids. This has come to the forefront in a big way over the last at least the last couple of years for sure. This is a long going battle really for the minds, hearts, and spirits of our children and grandchildren. And a new movie is shedding light on basically the state of the educational system and what might be the future in the words of people who are experts who have dedicated their lives to education and to the classroom, and they are sounding a warning signal. And I think it's one that we should listen to. Deborah Flora is my guest today, and she is an important part, instrumental part of a new documentary that we're going to discuss today to shed some light on this very important topic. Hi, Deborah. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I really appreciate your helping us get the word out and all that you've done to stand in this area of parental rights, educational freedom, and protecting the innocence of our children. It's vital today.
Really, there's nothing more important, I think, on this side of eternity. And your new movie is called "Whose Children Are They?" And let's just give people a snapshot of what this movie is about so that they can hopefully see it, share it, maybe bring it to their church, and we can talk about that in a second. But what is this all about?
Absolutely. So, Whose Children Are They is a documentary that premieres nationwide, and people can find out more about it, whosechildrenarethe.com. And really, the impetus was I'm the founder of Parents United America. I'm a mom. And so I've been standing in this area. We flipped our school board in Douglas County. We introduced curriculum transparency legislation. But what we realized is this uprising of parents who are waking up across the country is a movement, and movements historically can either dissipate or they can reach that tipping point where real change is made. So we spent over 100 hours of footage, over 85 interviews, over 2 years, putting this comprehensive expose together to really show what is going on in our school district and what we can all do about it.
Well, and I think it shocked a lot of people, especially when we're looking at places in Virginia, for example, some really high profile cases of where school boards and school administrators were actively putting parents in the position of being their enemies, or even rising to the level of asking the federal government to step in, or classification as domestic terrorists. I mean, all of that seems incredible. Like that escalated really quickly. But as you said, this has been going on for some time. I think parents have just been less aware of what's going on in classrooms when it comes to things like indoctrination, as well as, cultural and safety concerns too, right?
Hello.
Hi there. Can you hear me, Deborah?
Hey, I can. I apologize. I
No
went
worries.
into a bad patch there. Could you please repeat that question?
Sure, no problem. I think it took a lot of parents by surprise when we're seeing some of these high profile cases of students being indoctrinated or even endangered in the classroom by people who are supposed to protect them. But this has been going on for some time. And I know that your film talks with or sees the perspective of teachers that have been in the classroom and have been watching these changes take place.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing is really what we do is first of all, give the historical perspective, not too deep in that because there's so much to cover, but this has been going on for quite a while. John Dewey, who's known as the father of modern education in, I think it was the 20s or the 30s, he was a card carrying communist, and he was one of the honorary presidents of the teachers union. So this has been a long build to where we are today. But many parents, concerned citizens, grandparents are just now waking up to it. I mean, COVID was part of that. For the first time, they really got to see some of what was being taught to their children, but it's been going on for a while. The good news is it won't take that long. As long as it took to build this, it will not take that long to stop it, because we are the primary stakeholders in our children's lives. We are the ultimate authority in their education and their upbringing. And now that parents are awake, there is no going back to sleep again. So our goal with the documentary is to put together this comprehensive expose. So it isn't just that one case in Loudoun County, Virginia, or the one case in our school district in Douglas County, or maybe something in Oregon. people will see it is all connected, and it is time for true educational freedom and educational reform.
Well, the title of the film poses, I think, the central question, which is, of course, the reason that you
Yes.
guys chose it. And why do we see this kind of battle, and really the question about whose children are they? Where are we getting these? Where are the alternate ideas coming from that children have not been given to their parents?
Well, it is truly a crossroads. I mean, it's a crossroads in our civilization in almost every area, but it is being borne out probably most clearly in the school system. There is a Marxist view. Karl Marx said it himself, that from the moment a child can be without their mother's care, they will be in the care of state institutions. And there is a fundamental difference in view. You know, we all believe, from a Judeo-Christian founding of our country and just basic natural rights, that it is the parent's right to guide the child in every fundamental area, from basic morality, worldview, character, all of that. And it is the school's job to educate them on academics, reading, writing, arithmetic, science, history, etc. Well, unbeknownst to most parents, the other viewpoint about the state having the right to educate the child on everything has been taking hold. But now that parents are aware, grandparents, concerned citizens, that's not going to go anymore. It's not going to pass anymore. And it has been pushed by a lot of ideological agendas, from comprehensive sex ed, gender fluidity teaching in kindergarten, to critical race theory, which is really just neo-segregation, if we call it for what it is. So that's the division in viewpoints. And really, this is that time. We have to realize where we are and stand up and reclaim our rights as the ultimate authority in our children's education and upbringing.
Amen to that. Now, Deborah, as you've been working on this film, and like you said, it's taken a little while to put together, what are some of the things that surprised you, or that you think would surprise parents and grandparents as they see this film about the state of our educational system?
Well, one thing I would say is we have a disclaimer before the sex education portion, and we literally say this is for mature audiences only, but it's being shown to your children across the country. So don't bring your kids to it. This is not for children. It is actually for the parents and the adults to wake up and see what's really going on. This movie would have an R rating if it was through the MPAA, not for what we put in it, but for what they're showing our children. And when you think about the fact, by the way, that we have to sign a release form if they're going to have a Tylenol, or if they're going to watch a PG-13 movie, this is outrageous. So you see that. You see the fact that teachers unions refer to parents as barriers. In our own school system, they called us dissenters. So you see some of these different things, and you realize just how far through the looking glass we've gotten. In the name of CRT, progressive policies become regressive. There's a school in Atlanta, Georgia, an elementary school, where they actually segregated children by race in kindergarten. And that was implemented by a Black principal. And the one who complained was a Black mom about her daughter. Because the reality is, when you take these to the furthest extreme, they do not make any sense. They are not for the good of children. So there's a lot of things in this documentary that will shock people, but we do believe that by the end, they will be galvanized and inspired to stand up and stand with other citizens of goodwill for the innocence of children.
Deborah Flora is our guest. She's the president and founder of Parents United America. We're talking about the new documentary, Whose Children Are They? And you can, in fact, go to whosechildrenarethe.com and learn more about the movie and information about that specifically, as well as where you can see it, how you can bring it to a location near you and get this information into the hands of parents, grandparents, concerned citizens. Deborah, here in our home state, we had to applaud the governor for being bold enough to read some of these excerpts of explicit content that is available and even promoted in our kids' middle and high schools. And she read that on television. And I'm very, wonderfully surprised that she was taking that bold stand.
Yes.
But then I guess the pushback comes from people who say, oh, well, if you don't agree with the teachers and just giving them whatever you want, then you're anti-education. For some reason, I don't understand where that comes from.
It is such a straw man argument. It is really made up to try to bully parents into silence. First of all, we are pro teacher. Teachers are bullied by the teachers unions quite frequently, and they're scared into thinking that that is their only option in order to have protection in their job and insurance, which isn't true, by the way. They can get insurance in many different ways. It does not require compromising what they probably feel about these things. Second, people say, oh, if you're against CRT, you're against history. No, we are for the unfiltered and unvarnished teaching of complete history. But even the founders of the 1619 project upon which it was based have said it's not actually history. It's just their worldview through which they want to push everything. And it really comes down to separating children into groups and pitting them against each other. Or if they say that we're prude and we don't want sex education. Once again, it is a straw man argument. All of us are for reproductive biology, which is what we all probably think is happening because it's what we experienced when we were in school. But that's not what's going on. We're talking about hypersexualizing children as young as kindergarten all the way up through third grade and beyond. So, we just need to finally stand up, not be bullied into silence by false arguments, and really point out the truth, because really all they have is that bully tactic. When we speak the truth, just like you were talking about your governor, they have no excuse. They have no recourse. It is indefensible.
Well, and Deborah, I appreciate the empowering message of this film. I think overall, when we're talking about these things, parents can become really discouraged. They can get angry, and I've seen where that mama bear and dad and papa bear comes in. That's what we need, that kind of passion. But as you said, I mean, movements can flare up and flare out. So the last thing we want is to leave our kids unprotected or feel as though there isn't anything that we can do. So in the time remaining, what are some things that you urge through the film, and parents listening today, how will they be equipped and empowered to make a difference for their kids and their schools?
Great question. I so appreciate it. Number one, we do encourage everyone to see the documentary and then share it far and wide, and not for our sake. You never make a documentary to make money, fame, or fortune, nothing like that. You do it because you're passionate enough to want to create a tool to get this movement to the tipping point. And that means if there are people that who just really don't believe it or have not stood up for flipping their school board or any of that, good teachers, share this with them. Then there's practical steps. Teachers can have a mass union exit. They do not have to be bullied into teaching ideology that is it takes away from their precious time to teach academics. And then another thing that people can do is vote for school board members who are not taking money from teachers unions, who are not beholden to them. Because if they are taking money from teachers unions, that's who they answer to, and they don't represent, therefore, parents, teachers, or students. You can support legislators and legislation that has our tax dollars follow the student and not the system. It's about time we had real educational freedom, which actually benefits most those who are underprivileged, inner city, minority, who don't even have an ability to get to other schools if they wanted to. So there's so much that we can do. And number one, know what's going on in your children's school. And if they don't want to tell you, then join this movement, replace your school boards. And if you ultimately have to, move your children to another option for education, because it's time. We cannot go back to sleep again now that we've seen and we know what we know.
Yeah, it has to be the priority. And I don't know that there's a whole lot we wouldn't sacrifice for our kids.
Correct.
But sometimes it requires that thinking outside the box and an awful lot of time and dedication. So I've seen that. I've seen that in our own neighborhoods. I've seen it across the country, and I know that you have as well. This is a powerful movement. Like you said, we're not going to go back to sleep because our kids deserve it. Our kids deserve better than they've been getting from our schools, and so do our teachers, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Now, and Deborah, go ahead.
Oh, and one thing I love too, by the way, even if our own children, maybe now we are homeschooling, which many people are now after they've seen what's going on, or maybe they're in a good school. But you know what I've loved seeing is concerned parents, grandparents, and citizens who are standing up, even if their children are now protected from this indoctrination, because really it's other children as well. It could be the sin of omission if we don't stand up, and when beautiful children are being warped by so much of what is out there. And by the way, it influences the entire future of our country. This is the next generation. So we can all do something.
100% agree and amen. Deborah Flora has been our guest. Now, really quickly, can people bring this to their church or their community as well, this movie?
Absolutely. So go to whosechildrenarethe.com. There are a lot of options and there's a lot of ways to present it. And I would just simply say, once again, definitely you can bring it to your church, but do not bring your children. It's exactly the material we are trying to protect them from. But there's a lot of ways to get this out there. And our hope is that this documentary has a long life and reaches as many people as possible.
Well, we're doing our part to get the word out. Deborah
Thank
Flora,
you.
President and founder of Parents United America. Thank you so much for your time, for your dedication to this issue. And we have, I'm just very hopeful and praying for this particular project. I think it's going to have a huge impact. And as you said, we're not going back to sleep. So thank you for helping to equip and empower parents, grandparents, and just people who care about kids.
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
God bless. Thank you, Deborah.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.